Hey, good morning. Happy Sunday. Why am I not drinking coffee? I've already drank my coffee this morning. It's late. It's very late. Where are we at? We're at 10:20 a.m. Central. Coffee's done late today because I slept in a little bit, but also my mom was in town for the weekend. She helped me at the Madison Card Show yesterday. So she just left for home. So that's why I was a little delayed this morning. So I want to share what happened at the Madison Card Show, the largest to date, 110 dealer tables. Was there any drama? Why did my sales strategy completely change going forward? Tell you why. I picked up some goodies. What did I pick up? Let's see what else. The turnout. We'll talk about the turnout. We'll talk about the 2-floor setup. Did it work? Was there complaints? We had a lot of complaints last month about how packed it was. I guess that's a good problem to have, but it also turns some people off. They don't want to come back. And if you have enough of those people not coming back, all of a sudden you have a shortage of customers. So you want to find that happy balance, that happy medium, that balance of you want a crowded show, but you don't want it too crowded, and you certainly don't want it undercrowded. So I'll share that as well. So we've got Zach with us this morning. Good morning, Zach. Rich, here I am. I don't know if you were here, but I explained why I'm later than usual. My mom was in town. She helped me at the card show. She was watching my table. Maybe that's why my sales were so good yesterday, because I wasn't behind the table. By the way, I'm kiddingly kind of annoyed you had to switch Hobby Hotline for March 15th. So I would like to discuss card shows. Oh, bummer. If I would have known that, we can still flip flop. So the reason that I just said I'll take the March 1st is my wife's out of town. She's in Florida helping my mother-in-law built a new house down in Florida. So the move-in is this week, and how does that work? I'm back home dog sitting and selling cards, and my wife's helping her mom move. So that's why this Tuesday kind of worked out a little better because of that. So that's why I chose the dates. Don't mess with the hobby. Good morning to you. Glad you had a great show. We're road tripping to Dallas. Awesome. I think that's on my bucket list for 2023. I'm not going to make it to Dallas this year, just with all the other travel plans. But I do have that on the to-do list. So let's get into it. Happy Sunday. Usually I kind of start my monologue with what did I do yesterday, but that's going to be the whole episode because it's all about yesterday's Madison Card Show. So my mom came in, first time that I've done 2 floors, opened up a second ballroom. I got there super early yesterday because I was freaking stressed out. I didn't know how 2 tables was going to go. I chose to set up tables, which I was kind of debating whether or not. My mom was free to come up. So that's not going to be, available every month. So moving forward, how do I, if I do a 2-room setup again, which I likely will, probably not next month, but looking ahead to April, a lot of my regulars will be back after missing March. So I think the April 30th show is going to be big. So that was kind of, that was on my mind, how, I want to do some content, which actually looking back at my photos and the videos I took, it was pretty underwhelming. So I failed at the photos and video. On my side, I brought I actually forgot the tripod up in the ballroom, the upstairs ballroom. So I had to email my contact at the hotel, like, hey, I gotta come pick my tripod up this week. So I was worried about that. So I got there super early, stopped at Dunkin' on my way in, Had the Rich, my go-to now. I'm still disappointed that the Power Breakfast Sandwich is no longer on the Dunkin' menu, but the sourdough breakfast sandwich is a good alternative. So that's been my go-to sourdough breakfast sandwich, hash browns, large coffee, 3 cream. So pick that up. So I'm pulling into the Sheraton. So this is like my monthly routine. Stop at Dunkin', get my stuff, and then I drive to the hotel and I find a parking spot, eat my breakfast, and then I pull up to the side entrance, get the carts, start loading in. So I pull into the parking lot and it's like, holy crap, it's packed. The front parking lot, which is usually like, well, I guess it's usually full, but there's usually some spots up front. There were like 7 or 8 cars up in they have like the drive, the overhang where the main entrance. There were like 7 or 8 cars up there, and I'm like, what in the hell's going on? I hope these aren't dealers showing up this early, and I've still got to turn on the lights. So I pull around to the back where I park and eat my breakfast, and it was packed. Like there was not a parking spot, and I'm like, well, this is not good because first, where are my dealers going to park when they start loading it? Well, they can load in at the front doors, but where are they going to park? And then where are the customers going to park later today? So I'm like, what's going on? I saw a couple of people walking dogs. It's a dog-friendly hotel, the Sheraton. And so I'm eating my breakfast, and there's a lot of a lot of traffic. By far the busiest the hotel has been since starting it last April. So I finish my breakfast and I go to pull up to load in, and there's just dogs everywhere, which is awesome because I love dogs. I mean, and all kinds of dogs, not just like there were like French bulldogs. There was a bunch of huskies. There was one, oh my God, he was like the sweetest, probably a 200-pound. I don't know if it was a Mastiff or kind of looked like Beethoven. What was Beethoven? But he was black with like white on him. And he was just a big lug. So when I was just kind of hanging out in the lobby. I had gotten everything. I was just kind of waiting for dealers. And the lady that was working the front desk, she's like, "Oh, look at the dog." So the dog like went up to her and just like sat on her foot up against, how dogs do that? They just kind of sit on your foot and rest on your leg. He was doing that. He was just getting all kinds of love. He was loving it. So I had a great time just seeing all the dogs. So there was a dog show. And it was like a 4-day. The lady goes, "Yeah, they've been here for 4 days. I love dogs, but they've been here for 4 days." So there was a dog show across the street. The Alliant Energy Center's a big, like where they have concerts and, monster truck rallies, stuff like that across the street. So there was a big dog show there yesterday or this past week. And it was the state high school wrestling tournament in town. And so there were a couple teams. So the hotel was completely booked, which was good because I got some traffic from alternative traffic that normally probably would not have come to a card show. So that was good. So got the room got the rooms all set up, unloaded my stuff, and dealers started coming in. I'll have to look at that. Dunkin' has been off my radar since they got off I was bummed. The sourdough is good. The sourdough breakfast sandwich is good. And it keeps me filled up for, usually it's enough like protein that it keeps me full most of the day. And I'm usually, pretty busy. So I kind of forget to, eat, but I usually, bring some breakfast bars, protein bars, just to kind of tide me over until I do a late lunch at 4 or 5 o'clock, which late lunch, early dinner, basically. My new Saturday breakfast is oatmeal and large coffee, 3 creams, 3 sugars from Mickey D's. Oatmeal, there you go. Oatmeal always keeps me full also. So let's see. I actually wrote down so I don't go all over the place with my Madison Card Show review. So let's talk first about the 2-floor setup. So there's no way I could run this show with 2 floors and run a table. It's just because I'm going up and down, up and down, up and down. We had early birds. I think the first, and there's a couple of guys that come in early. I don't mind as long as, and I kind of leave it up to the dealers. Like if they want to come in, be an early bird, that's okay. If a dealer doesn't like it, they can tell them to bug off or, go, sorry, I'm, setting up, please come back later. I'm cool with that. So, a lot of guys are come in, set up 6:30 and they're by 7:30, they're already ready to go. So, hey, if there's a customer, do it to it. So there was a couple guys at as early as 7:30 when the show starts at 9, which again, I don't mind. Um, so the two floor setup, I'm up and down, up and down, up and down. So thankfully, had my mom to basically just watch the table the whole time and handle the sales. And my table's easy. It's I had quarter boxes, dollar boxes, and then I had some supplies, card savers, the I had boxes of these that I was selling because I bought so many from BCW that I can sell off some, make some profit, and just put another order in. So was I actually moved like 3 of those boxes, so that was good. Um, so did well, and I'll talk about my sales and why it's like altering my card show sales strategy moving forward. Um, so the setup was, I think all in all, the setup was good. My main concern with having the 2 floors separated was, I've been doing the show now since April of last year, and everybody knows, like all the regulars, they just go straight upstairs, and that's where the card show is, in the upstairs, the big ballroom. So my concern was everybody's just going to go straight upstairs, and the thing with the downstairs ballroom on the first floor is it's way in the back. It's in the back. Each of the downstairs first floor ballrooms are in the corners. So fortunately, I had the signage. Thanks to my wife, the sponsor of the Madison Card Show, Lessing team, Amy Lessing Realtor. So I had some signs just kind of gearing toward, but it actually worked out. And in the ladies that were working the front desk did an awesome job of like directing people, like, oh yeah, there's a ballroom straight back, and then there's also a room upstairs. So they did an awesome job. A lot of the newer customers that had never been to the show, went straight back to the first floor. So the first floor, I was impressed by the traffic that the secondary ballroom had down on the first floor. Being the first time, it was pretty full until noon, and then we had that just major drop off, and it was pretty dead in the afternoon hours, where the ballroom upstairs was steady, although it wasn't as busy in the morning. Some people were a little concerned, but that was because most people, a lot of the people were downstairs in the first floor, which all in all, that's a good thing, because it kind of separated the people where it wasn't overcrowded, which I received a lot of complaints about how packed it was last month, and it's like it was too packed. We couldn't even get into a table, so we turned around and left. And you know, as a promoter, you see that, and that's what you want. Well, that's kind of what you want. You want a packed show, but you don't want people walking out because they can't get to a table and then not come back. So create bigger spaces, and that's what we did this month, and I think it worked out. There were no, I didn't field any complaints for too many people or for not enough people. It was a happy medium. I talked to the guy in charge of setting the rooms up in the morning, and he goes, "Man, you took every last one of our tables." So I've basically outgrown the venue, even though they have another ballroom that could fit another. What you could fit in the ballroom I used yesterday, you could fit 40 tables. We got 30 in there because they only had 30 more tables. So if I wanted to expand into that room and the other ballroom, I'd have to work something out to rent tables from a company and do that. So I don't know. I talked about the Alliant Energy, which is across the street. I got pricing on that. It's not feasible for a 1-day show. I'm also under contract with the Sheraton through the end of the year. So if I did something at the Alliant, it would have to be like a weekend 3-day thing. And I'm just not, I don't want to do that. I just want to keep a monthly show. I'd like to continue growing it, but the same time, it's, kind of at capacity at this point in time. So the turnout, I mentioned the turnout. The turnout was great. Rich says, or you can buy the hotel tables, and within a show or two, the tables are paid off. That's, that could work. That could possibly work. Maybe ask them, buy more tables. You can use them. You can use them for all sorts of events. So the 2-floor setup, I was up and down, throughout the day. Again, I didn't take very good video and photos. So that's the one thing I'll try to do better, which is it's easier. And I was kind of all my head was all over the place because I'm the more vendors, the more questions. I'm doing, I'm going to each table, making sure I, talk with the dealers, trying to get some pictures. So, it's kind of, you forget at times, and then go down, check on my mom, give her a break so she can, walk around or, use the restroom, talk to regular customers and all that. So, so I think that's plus, being in a different, being when the rooms are separated, you're not there where if I don't have anybody at my table, I'm not going back and forth. Everybody's in the same room or out on the mezzanine, and I can just, snap some quick pictures where, it's kind of difficult to do. So Rich is the tables. That's exactly what I thought. So Costco, I actually, the table that's behind me, right there where you see those stacks of cards, that's a Costco table, and yeah, they're like 20 or 30 bucks. We had to buy more tables for my synagogue show back in the day, and it was a good investment for the dealers. That's a good idea. If I don't think I'm going to run into an issue next month because I'm up against the Chicago Spectacular, and it was the only date available for the venue here. But with the regulars I'm losing that are going to be in Chicago, I've already filled those spaces. But I think I'm just going to cap it at the main ballroom and the mezzanine, so I can get, what 80 tables, I think, is what I can get between the mezzanine and the room. 80 and 30. So, so my pickups. Let's talk about something that I wanted to pick up, but I got to be smart. I think it would have been a great purchase, but for me, that I'm 4 months, 5 months into starting this business of selling cards, I can't spend a lot of money on personal collection. I did buy, and I'll get to my pickups after I talk about this. I did buy a couple things did I buy a couple things? Actually, I really only bought one Cubs card for my for like PC. I spent $8. I'll get into that in a second. So one card that I saw and I tweeted it out, it was a 2015 Topps Chrome, I think purple refractor rookie auto black label Chris Bryant. Purple Chrome refractor auto black label rookie Chris Bryant. And I saw that. I'm like, wow, can I, ask? And actually, the dealers came in from Valparaiso, Indiana. So, and these are some heavy hitter dealers. They're with Tommy Larson. If you're familiar with Tommy Larson, he's a big time. If you were at the Wisconsin Dell show last year, he's the dealer with I took a photo of all the Babe Ruth Goudies and the Mickey Mantles, and Tommy was down at the Atlanta show, but he had part of his team come up to my show, and they had some Beckett 8.5 Jordan rookie, and then the Bryant. I'm like, man, I'm curious, what's the price on that? $2,000, which I thought that's a heck of a deal. It's a pop one, but I can't buy that. I want to, and I wanted to, but I can't spend that type of money on a card for my own collection. So you got to dream. It's a dream card. But wow. So that's one card I didn't pick up that I really wanted to. But I did do some pickups. So the first purchase I made, my buddy Nick and Colton set up, and Nick texted me Friday night, and he's like, hey, my local Walmart has 3 AEW blasters. Do you want them at cost? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So he brought those, and he's like, it was about an hour into the show, maybe a half an hour, and he's like, he had them on the table, not for sale, but he had them, they're waiting for me, and he's like, you better snag these now because I've had a lot of people ask about them. So gave him $75 for the 3. And I did rip one open last night. I'm gonna do the others on my channel here on YouTube. I don't know when I'll get to those. Hold me to it. I'm gonna do a nostalgia break of those ET cards that I've been putting off for how many 2 weeks now. So I'm gonna break those ET, get that video uploaded, and I'm gonna do that today before I go and pick up my pallet of 500 cards from Goodwill tomorrow. So I picked up those AEW 3 blasters. I ripped one last night. The other 2 I will rip sometime this week. What else did I pick up? Speaking of nostalgia breaks, I picked up some the 2 packs that were on the top of my want list for non-sports unopened wax that I want to rip on nostalgia breaks. 1990 Topps The Simpsons, which was like, I'm still a Simpsons fan. I was a huge Simpsons fan back when it, first aired, and the first several years it was on, basically through the 90s, and then I kind of grew out of it. But those 90 Topps Simpsons cards, man, they're so awesome. So I bought 2 packs of those. So I'm going to rip one, and I might just leave one for a rainy day. And then the other was 1986 Topps Howard the Duck, which I actually, for some reason, my parents let me watch that when I was 5 years old. I wouldn't recommend allowing your children to watch Howard the Duck. It's not a kid-friendly movie. But hey, I turned out okay. Howard the Duck, I bought 2 packs of those. Again, I'll rip one for nostalgia breaks, and then I'll save one for a rainy day. Now, this is really going to motivate me to get back on track of nostalgia breaks, because these are like truly nostalgic. Whereas some of the packs I'm ripping don't hold that much nostalgia. Like the Spider-Man, I had no nostalgia with that pack. E.T. I do, just because it's a classic. So yeah. So what's up, Herman? Yes, I'm gonna rip the E.T. later today. Low Roller Scratcher, good morning. How much 100 top loaders for cards in retail store? I'm not sure what the pricing is. I know you can buy them in bulk. They're back down to semi-normal pricing. Columbia Hobby has them in stock, and I think they're 8 or 9 cents per when you buy them in bulk, which is a good deal, because back in the when they were at their peak, it was like 20 cents, 22 cents for new top loaders. So AEW. So yeah, wow. Oh, more unopened wax than cards. The only card I bought for my Cubs collection was a 1936 Gaudy wide pen, Phil Cavaretta. Tony, who runs the card show in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, he brought his baseball binders out, and I didn't even have a chance to really look through. He had some exhibits and some other older Gaudy that I didn't even look, and I'm like, what's the price on this Cavaretta? He's like, oh, $8. I'm like, $8? Heck yeah. So I snagged the Phil Cavaretta. It's still in a box. I have to pull it out. So I'll tweet that pickup out later today. So that was my only Cubs purchase. And then thank you to several people who dropped off some Cubs cards for me. My college buddy Quincy came up from Waukegan. So he was in town. We had a late lunch at Mr. Brews. 2 days this week I went to Mr. Brews because that's where we went for trivia on Tuesday night. So I had a couple Mr. Brews burgers. I went with the bruschetta burger yesterday. I did the California burger on Tuesday night. They have great burgers. Rich says $8 for Phil Cavaretta, perfectly fine for your collection. Most definitely. I couldn't pass that up. So Quincy brought me an 800 count box of Cubs. Chuck Cania from Twitter gave me some Cubs. Who else brought some Cubs? My buddy Scott used to work for the Cubs in the front office. He came up from the north suburbs. He brought me, and I tweeted a photo of the mug, a rookie mug of Ryan Sandberg, the 7-Up 1983 7-Up mug, Ryan Sandberg. They actually brought me a big bag of Cub stuff, and he's like, I always want to, whenever I come up here, I want to give you something that you don't have for your collection. And I didn't have any of the Ryan Sandberg 83 7-Up mugs. There was a Crosstown Classic mug when the Cubs and White Sox would play exhibitions. And this one was from 1985. He had a spring training program from 1979. He even scored it, which I actually like the scored scorecards as opposed to the just blank. I like somebody was there, watched the game. I like that touch, that personal touch. He's like, this, I actually scored this, and I was working for the team in 1979. I don't know why I scored this, because I should have been in the clubhouse or in the dugout. But for some reason he was scoring. So it was fun to look at the names: Mick Kelleher, Steve Dillard, Steve Ontiveros, Tim Blackwell, Jerry Morales, some names from the late 70s. And then there was a Japanese, in Japanese, the program with the Mets and Cubs opened the season in Japan in 2003. And so it's the program from that series in Japanese, which definitely did not have that in my collection. So it's always cool to see these unique items that he brings up. What's up, peeps? Good morning to you. So those were my pickups. I think that's everything I picked up. I did get a lead on a collection. I had a guy come down from the Green Bay area. He was a dealer, and he had a sign. He said, selling 500,000 cards. Asked me about it. And I'm like, hey, I buy in bulk. So he's like, I need to clean my basement. He's in poor health. He's like, I just want to, get rid of everything, but just kind of keep a small inventory so I can still do the shows. So we're going to set up a time. I'm going to drive up there and take a look and see if it's something that I'll pull the trigger on for some inventory for both card shows and for my eBay store. So that was a great connection to make, and he'll be set up at my next show in March as well. Let's see. What I sold, and I need to go back and talk more about the 2-floor setup. What I sold was very surprising. So I had a great show in this was January. I had a great January show. So my January show, I've been trying to scale back on the quarter cards and do more dollar cards. And I sold like all of my quarter boxes of football and basketball to Kyle. He's another dealer, does my show. So I just had baseball. I had 3 or 4 quarter boxes of baseball, and I almost didn't put them out. It's like I just want to focus on the dollar cards and maybe move a couple of boxes of card savers and call it a day. Probably won't make enough. The table cost, there's no cost to me, but there's that opportunity cost where if I didn't set up, here's the cost of these tables for another dealer to have them. Am I gonna? And that's kind of how I rationalize if I'm going to set up. Okay, if I start making less than the cost of these tables collectively, then I'll just go around and buy and make sure everybody's good. If I make more than that, well, I'll continue taking up table space and selling. Peep says, do you bother top loading 25-cent cards? Absolutely not. What I do is all of my quarter cards are sleeved, so they're penny sleeved. And then my dollar cards are card savers and top loaders. So any dollar card is in a top loader or a card saver. All quarter cards are just penny sleeved. And then I don't do dime boxes. If I did dime boxes, those would be unsleeved. Those would just be, because they're 10-cent cards. And that's as a buyer, when I go to shows, if I see, unless I know the dealer, or if I grab a pile and the dollar cards are not in top loaders or card savers, I usually just move along. Sometimes I'll grab a stack And if it's basically, if I see it as a quarter card, I'll just walk away. Sometimes there's good stuff in those boxes, like the card shop I go to in Freeport. The 50-cent boxes are just in penny sleeves, and um, but they're really good. They're really good cards. They're $5, $10 cards. So I know what I'm getting. How much the table costs? One table is $50. Two tables for 80 and three for 100. So usually I have 2 or 3 tables set up, and I've always exceeded that in sales. So my sales strategy has like completely changed, and I know it shouldn't, based on just one day, one show. But I almost didn't bother putting the quarter cards out because I just had 3 or 4 boxes of baseball. Then I think I had a box of just random non-sports, wrestling, UFC, etc. But I sold a ton of quarter cards. I sold just out of 3 or 4 boxes. I sold over $100, and I haven't looked at the exact, but maybe $150 in quarter cards. People were filling the boxes, which at my show, like when I first started doing that, fill a box for 20, fill a box, fill a 100 count box for $20, fill a 200 count box for $35. When I first started doing that, I had quite a bit of success, and then it just kind of petered out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try it. So I think it was just new customers coming in, taking advantage of those sales, and probably had not looked through the quarter boxes, because I've had the same. These quarter boxes are basically the same since the very beginning in April, and I still made that much selling the 25-cent cards, and then I sold a lot of dollar cards. It was the best show sales wise that I've had at any show in the last year. And I was down in the far back in the downstairs room, in the secondary room, basically. So I think I may give, I think, my quarter boxes were on life support, where I was just going to, purge them, and maybe, I just need some fresh inventory as well. Although this wasn't fresh inventory, still made some sales. So I think for next month, I might even do some sorting. Remember way back, the first couple shows I was doing, it's like, how can I make more sales? Is there too much? Do I have too many boxes out? Or is it because they're not sorted in any particular manner? And, there's some buyers who like the mess. I'm one of those. I would prefer disorganization when it comes to bargain boxes, as opposed to here's the Cubs, here's the White Sox, here's the Yankees. Because for me, it's kind of psychology, where if they're sorted that well, they've probably been picked over. But if it's just a mess, because if it is just a mess, they're probably not as picked over, where, if I bring boxes home and somebody gets hot, and it's like, I better go through my 25-cent boxes because there may be a good card in here. The way I set them out, disorganized, I'm not going to spend all that time going through 4-row boxes looking for 1 or 2 rookie cards that might have upped in value to $10, like Chris Taylor and one of the other guys in the baseball playoffs last year. And somebody's going to find one of those and get lucky, and hey, and that's good, because it keeps them coming back. So I think my strategy, I'm gonna change my strategy. I might build more quarter boxes. We'll see. My next show, I'm gonna do Rockford in 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes there. And then March is still kind of up in the air for my show in March, and I'll just kind of go into that next month and what's the future. So the March 19th show, as I mentioned, is the same weekend as the Chicago Spectacular. With the vendors I've lost, I've already filled in. The Spectacular is a much different show. A lot of the clientele that come to my show won't go to the Chicago show because, and I was telling a couple, vendors yesterday, the Spectacular, I think it's $12 admission. It's $15 to park. And then from up here, you've got tolls, you've got gas. It's a big expense just to walk in the door. I have no interest in going. I was going to try to make it for a day, but I have no interest in going because last Spectacular, I spent 2 nights. I spent money on hotel for 2 nights, plus, dinners each night. That's, $25-$30 a day just to park and get in the show. And guess where all my money was spent? On 2 vendors, One of the vendors sets up at the Oak Creek show every month. I can drive over there an hour away. The other vendor that I went through was the card shop in Freeport. Where did I go last Wednesday? Went down to the shop. It's an hour drive and free to get in. And so I spent all that money at the spectacular to spend money at booths that I can just drive an hour and see anytime I want, or once a month in Oak Creek. So that's why I don't have any interest going back to the spectacular in March. Um, let's see. Low Roller says you need to bring $5 to $100 cards to cover your table cost for one card. No, I cover my table cost real easy with the bargain boxes. I'm considering setting up at the next Spartanburg show in April. That's awesome. I hope you do. Goodwill, you buy 500 pounds, you sell them 25 cents each. Well, a lot of the Goodwill I throw away because they're, some of the cards that are damaged, some are worth, a Mike Trout rookie. I've sold a bunch of the cards for 20, 25 bucks. A lot of $5, $10 cards. So it's a little bit of everything. A lot of them go into the 25-cent boxes. You need to add more basketball and football cards for 25-cent boxes. I sold them all. I sold my football and basketball because I was pulling away from the 25-cent boxes. I was focusing more on the dollar boxes. And I had the most success selling old baseball cards that have been in my bargain boxes for months and months and months. And I had the most success selling yesterday, as opposed to putting out new boxes every month. Peep says it's like flipping through vinyl. It's best if it's disorganized, digging for the surprise. Zach says your psychology is correct. Rich says, by the way, remember I said kiddingly, I get to do Hobby Hotline with Suze on the 15th, and she's always a blast. Well, remember, it will be months before I can really set up again, so it's a different world for me now. Yeah. You got to replenish. I think my new pricing is going to be, instead of pricing each card individually, so yeah, we'll see. So I think I'm going to alter my strategy for next month. Rich says, or Zach says, are you coming to OC next weekend? We're going. I have that Harry Carey book. I will not be able to make it. My wife comes home next Saturday, so I've still got the dog. So our pup is here, so I will not be able to make that trip next weekend. Rich says 25 cents, $1, 3, 5, and then 10. You got inventory in Goof. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I can definitely I've got plenty of inventory to continue making 25-cent boxes. So, I'm gonna wait and see. And, I may have the fresh 25-cent boxes and might do, kind of a hybrid and do both. But I don't know, was the psychology, was it because there were less boxes to dig through? It wasn't as overwhelming for people, but at the same time, it was still disorganized. So they still had to dig. I don't know. So that's something that, I was talking to another dealer and he said, last month I thought X would sell and it didn't. Something else sold. So I brought that this month and it didn't sell. Something else sold. You never know. It's like you think you cracked the code on what is best to optimize in sales at a card show, and then all of a sudden it fails you miserably. So let's see. We talked about the pickups, what I sold next month in the future. So next month with the layout, I think I'm just going to cap it at the 80 tables upstairs. And we'll see. We'll see how things go. If I continue to get an onslaught of new vendors, new dealers that want into the show, maybe I'll just forego setting up myself, because I won't be able to set up and run the show without help. So probably do that. But I think I'm just gonna leave it to the 80 rooms upstairs. And then I'll have a couple tables upstairs, and that way everything's confined to the upstairs second floor. But then in April, I'm likely going to go back to the 2-room setup, and we'll see. And if I do that again, it's likely that I just won't set up my own tables. And then I'll just continue setting up at the Rockford show, and maybe I'll pick up If I don't set up at my show, maybe another weekend I'll find a show that I can set up at. So the 2-floor setup, I had kind of a mixed reaction by the dealers. I had a couple. I had one dealer who actually wanted to stay downstairs. Um, for the most part, people were like, "Can you get me upstairs?" And it's like, probably not. I've got to you've got to roll with what got you here, and be loyal to the people that were loyal to you in those days where I was begging for dealers, and they were there for me. So they're gonna always get first right at that main ballroom. If you come at me, if you ghost me 6 months ago and now you try to get in, guess what? You're gonna deal with what I can get you. But I'll try to work with as many people as I can. But people who have uh, tenure are going to get those tables that they've been setting up at, and get first right. Um, so I had mixed reactions. I had a couple guys that, hey, I want to be up there. I had, one guy that said, yeah, I want to stay here in the backup room. And then I had a couple others that are like, yeah, I'll set up again, and I don't care. Just get me a room. I had another guy who he's like, he couldn't set up yesterday, and he was telling me, he's like, I don't care where you put me. You can put me in the hallway. You can put me downstairs. I just want a table. So that's good to hear. Rich says, I'm going to have a similar issue with my next synagogue show. We're going from 40 to 45 tables to 20. Yeah, and it's tough. I know some other area promoters that have a waiting list, and it's like I'm not a fan of a waiting list, but now it's to the point where it's a necessity because we've run out of, well, we haven't ran out of room yet, but we've run out of tables, which maybe I can take care of that. So yeah, it's tough because not everybody's going to be able to get in, and you want to try to work with everybody, but at the same time, there's only so much room that you have. Rich says, so I have to stay with those who always supported and talk through and hope for the best. It's not as big, so I have to stay with those who supported the show. Absolutely. Most definitely. And that's where I'm at, which is, it sucks having those conversations, but it's also great that the show is to that point where you have that issue where it's not like I'm, hounding dealers like, hey, come set up at my show. Like the first, how many months? First 6 months, probably. First 6 shows: April, May, June, July, August, September, probably October. First 7 shows, I was, really having to hound, not hound. Hound's probably a bad word to use, but banging down doors to like, hey, can you help me out? Can you set up at the show? And then November, it was, I think that was the first time I filled the entire room. And then January, we opened the hallway, and then yesterday, a second room and the hallway. Let's see. Low Roller says they don't have enough room. They can sell sports cards outside. USFL is coming next month. These unknown NFL players will play USFL. It will boost their NFL cards when they do well. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's those USFL and the AAFL and the XFL. Those cards are fun, and you never know. Every once in a while, somebody does something well in the NFL, and it's like, hey, they've got a rookie card in this old product. Mike, what's up? Are you going to put me in the downstairs ballroom next time I can set up? I know people, right? So I think that is everything that I had on my list. Great show, and look forward to the next one. So next weekend I can't do. There's a show in Oak Creek next weekend. There's a show in Stevens Point. Austin, actually, he runs the show in Stevens Point. I think his first show was last month. He said it was a great turnout. So he's doing a show next weekend, next Saturday in Stevens Point, which I know Rich is going to know what Stevens Point, Wisconsin is famous for. Rich, Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And I want to go up there. I want to go to Stevens Point. I'm going to do a Stevens Point show at some point because I want to go there for the hobby nostalgia that is in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Larry Fritsch Sports Cards. I think Larry, there you go. Was Larry the first full-time card dealer? If he wasn't the first, he was one of the first pioneer in sports card shops and all that. So, and of course a lot of like, oddball sets that they created in the 70s into the 80s. So I used to get the catalog back when I was a kid in the 90s. So not really, but amongst them. Yeah, he was definitely an early adopter of card shops back in the early 70s. I think 74 was when he opened, I think. There were a few mail order before him. Gotcha. So yeah, so I want to do that show. His grandkids now run as both he and Jeff have passed. Yeah. My next show will be in 2 weeks. The Northern Illinois Card Show in Rockford. So I'll have my bargain boxes in tow. So that's at the Rock Church in Rockford. 2 weeks. Saturday. Shoot, I don't have the date on me, but it's in 2 weeks. 2 weeks on the Saturday. And then the next Madison show, March 19th. And then a few days after that, I'll be headed to Arizona for spring training, whether or not there's Major League Baseball at that point. Hopefully there is. They're meeting again in the next hour, noon Central Time. They're going to meet again. Sounds like they made some headway on Friday and then took 2 steps forward on Friday and 3 steps back yesterday. So hopefully they can make 4 or 5, might take more than 4 or 5 steps. They're still pretty far apart. So hopefully they can get their SHIT together so we can have some Major League Baseball. So I'm going to go out there anyway, regardless of MLB. I'll watch some minor league games if I have to. The big Phoenix Card Show is that last weekend in March, so I'll hit that up. So looking forward to that. Mostly just looking forward to getting out of the Midwest in this cold weather. Although it's pretty warm today, I might have to fire up the grill tonight. So that's what I had. Great show, Madison Card Show. Next one, March 19th, Sheraton Hotel. And you can see me at the next show I do in 2 weeks in Rockford, Illinois. And I'm also, if anybody's down in like the central Illinois area, I'm looking into pricing at there's a banquet facility in my hometown of Anawan, Illinois, right on Interstate 80. I reached out last night just to get some pricing and what their square footage is, how many tables we could fit in the room, and maybe do a show. One of my dealers came up from the Quad Cities and was telling, he's like, there's no shows. We have to like come here. It's 2 hours from the Quad Cities to Madison or Iowa City. Actually, I don't even know if Iowa City has a show. Des Moines has shows. Marion, Iowa, Dubuque has a show. But down in that like Quad Cities area, I guess Peru Mall has a show. But there's really not much down that way. And I'm not a big fan of mall shows. I'm not a big fan of mall shows. So maybe I'll, do a show in my hometown and that'll be fun. Rich says it'll be 70s all week before the next colder wave. So get your butt down to DCS. I won't make it this year, but maybe later in the year. We'll see how things go. We'll see how things go at the end of the year, and maybe I'll make a trip. Maybe I'll make a trip at some point in the second half of the year, 3rd, 4th quarter. So we'll see. So that's what I had for today. Thanks for tuning in. I think I have about 200 items to ship. And I was pretty much all caught up Thursday. Thursday I was caught up, but then Friday was busy with just preparing for all this. Looks like I've sold 14 things since I went live, and I'm at 202 items to ship. So I've got some shipping to do. Have a great Sunday. Back at it tomorrow morning. Thanks. I can't thank Ty enough from Bench Clear Media. I think I've gone. Since Thursday night, since we did our live eBay talk on Thursday night, And then our second interview was published yesterday on Bench Clear Media. Over 200 new subscribers. So thank you to all the new subscribers. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoy the content and you stick around. So again, thanks to Ty and Bench Clear Media for the additional pub and helping me boost those subscriber numbers. If you're not subscribed, please do. Also, please like this video. I appreciate that. Next Hobby Evolution tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. And I'll get that ET pack breakup later this afternoon. So I'll do another nostalgia break later today. We'll get that published tonight. E.T. from 1982 tops. So have a great Sunday, and we'll chat again tomorrow.